Better think twice before sharing inappropriate pictures and video. South Africa is potentially looking at criminalising such behaviour through the cybercrimes bill. The proposed law also seeks to improve cyber safety. Tech expert Arthur Goldstuck joining us now live from Johannesburg by phone. A very good afternoon to you, Arthur. So just give us a broader idea of the sort of crime that would be covered by this bill.
Good afternoon. The main crimes that are intended to be covered by the bill are related to hacking and stealing data via computer networks, what we generally regard as cyber crimes. And the bill is fairly detailed in that. It does mean that people have to be very careful about, for example, trying out a secure site or a protected site to see if they can access it through getting passwords, for example. That immediately becomes illegal. Even testing a site on behalf of a company might be problematic if somebody decides to take it further. Where there's a lot more debate, because those issues are fairly straightforward and globally fairly standard, but where it becomes complex is in terms of what communication you may send, because it immediately makes illegal the sending of any communication, what they call malicious communication, which is regarded as harmful. So a message is harmful if you threaten a person with damage to property or violence against that person, or members of their family or households, or anyone in a close relationship with that person, which is fine on the surface. The problem with that is that there are laws that already cover those kinds of threats. And this, in fact, makes it broader and vaguer. It means that if you imply a threat, for example, someone could interpret it as falling within malicious communication. So, for example, if you intimidate, encourage, or harass a person to harm himself or herself or any other person, and that could be something as flippant as someone saying they're going to jump off a bridge and someone else says, just do it, almost as a joke. That immediately violates the law. Also, anything that is regarded as what they call inherently false in nature and is aimed at causing mental, psychological, physical, or economic harm to any person or group of persons is illegal. Now, that can be interpreted very broadly. You could argue that fake news falls under that category, and we'd probably welcome that definition of fake news, or at least that action against fake news. But it could extend far beyond that. For example, the previous version of the bill had a provision that made it illegal to create feelings of dis-ease, for example, or of uncertainty and the like. And this could be interpreted in that direction. It feels a lot like the old apartheid government, where you could be found guilty of trying to foment unrest or spreading alarm and despondency, for example. There's a vague implication of those kinds of provisions in this law.
A vote on this bill recently took place in Parliament, but this is not a process that started yesterday, because it's been a couple of years in the making, this cybercrimes bill. What has taken our MPs so long to finally get to this point where there was indeed a vote in Parliament?
Part of the problem was that the previous government wanted to use this partly as a way to silence dissent, and there was massive outcries from civil society. So the original bill was published in 2015, updated beginning of last year, introduced early last year, and there were extensive comments during 2017 on the bill, which were regarded as, which were intended to address what were regarded as onerous aspects of the bill. So some of these were incorporated into the bill. Some of the bill was softened. It's less possible now to use it to crush dissent, but there still are elements of that. So there's been a lot of debate around it, and especially the idea that the bill goes beyond hacking and fraud. Cyber fraud, incidentally, is a big aspect of the bill. It goes beyond those standard aspects of cybercrime into what people can say and do, which is already covered by existing laws covering hate speech and criminal injuria. Those are the elements that have actually resulted in ongoing debate and still ongoing objection to the bill.
This also then, the broad strokes in this bill also mean that the police will have to do a lot more in terms of their ability to police or manage the cases that are likely to come from this bill once it's signed into law. But also the likes of financial institutions will now find themselves under increased pressure to do more to protect the information of their customers.
Well, there's a negative and a positive. There's certainly the police will have far more responsibilities. The negatives of that is that the police haven't been great in dealing with cybercrime up to now because they don't have the expertise. But the other negative aspect is that the police are given extensive powers to search and seize any computer or even a computer network or contents of a computer, provided they have a search warrant. And it's intended to align this with international efforts in this regard as well. So if foreign countries, for example, have a court order to access information, the South African police may well cooperate with them as well. So the concern there again is to what extent does that extend to political speech and political dissent? And then from the financial services point of view, I think probably the healthiest aspect of that is that any offences need to be reported to the police within 72 hours. And the institution has to retain all information related to it. Why that's important is because we've had so many hacking incidents where financial institutions have either been silent about it, or they've been very slow to respond, or they haven't made information fully available. So hopefully it will make that kind of incident far more transparent, and the public will be in a better position to decide how to protect themselves.
Very briefly, Arthur, given the legal loopholes that you've just outlined today, do you think the President will send this bill back to Parliament?
I would hope that the President would send it back to Parliament, but I think there's also a bit of cybercrime fatigue at play here, and many elements of government don't want to hear anymore about it. I hope that isn't the case, and we would like to see the bill further refined and consign issues like hate speech to the relevant laws that cover those aspects, so that it doesn't muddy the waters of what is cybercrime.
Arthur Goldstuck, tech expert, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.